Five Nights at Freddy's has had many characters throughout its run, and through the years, we've seen the franchise try new ways to make the animatronics interesting. What once was a franchise with possessed animatronics has now turned into a franchise with animatronics that are more sentient beings, with no possession whatsoever. Well, like a baby first entering the world, we must ask ourselves, how did we get here? Let me take you back to a time before Freddy could sing hor 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 hor, before hand units exotic butters, and yes, even to a time when we didn't even have a voice to get tired of. Let's go back to the original story of FNaF from 2014 to 2015, where they couldn't even speak, let alone have a personality behind them. Any audio used to represent them speaking, like Freddy's laughing or Foxy singing, were all stock sounds purchased from sounddogs.com. The only amount of voice acting that was present at the start was the creator, Scott Cawthon, as the phone guy. Whether his being the only voice within the start of the series was from a design standpoint or a budget issue, most likely the latter, it ended up working in the franchise's favor. Not only did it make the animatronics so much scarier with how little you both see and hear from them, but it also allowed the fandom to interact with each other, coming up with their own takes on what the Fazbear gangs sound like. So before we get into official territory, where one thing led to another, let's take a look at what the fandom came up with. Before all of that though, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing so I can make more videos you'll enjoy. Also be sure to give my Twitter a follow, along with joining the Discord server to meet a bunch of interesting people. Everything will be linked down below. Now back to the video. One of the first people to come to mind when talking about fan voices for FNaF is David Neer. He started making headcanon voices in 2014, only a month after the first game released. From then on, more would come of all the other characters. Sadly, these original videos of him doing his takes have been removed due to the creator wanting to move on from the franchise. Thankfully, they've all been safely archived through the many SFM videos people would make using the audio. Here, take a listen. Of course, credit to the original animators are linked down below.
Hello, boys and girls. I am thrilled to welcome you to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Here you will meet Bonnie the Bunny, Chicka the Chicken, Foxy the Pirate Fox, and of course yours truly. You'll enjoy a wide selection of games and activities, but the main attraction is our tasty pizza.
From what you heard, you can tell the dialogue was, well, cheesy, but hey, it still scared all the 10-year-olds who thought FNaF was real. Also, I sorta lied earlier when I said the creator didn't want anything to do with the franchise. While yes, the original videos have been deleted, there are newly revamped versions of the first game animatronics that came out at the start of 2023. They're mostly the same, with some alteration with the dialogue, and now being animated by David himself, so you know, that's pretty cool. I recommend checking it out after this video. If you weren't a fan of this though, let me introduce you to another channel, debatably more iconic than the one I just mentioned, that plenty of original fans remember. Mr. Creepypasta. Ooh, the pasta's gonna get you. Ooh, I don't know what that was. Can that be cut from the final video? Yeah, remember that video where Foxy bit into a character from TF2? That was actually a whole series called Five Nights at Freddy's Hidden Lore that spanned across multiple videos that, when put together, is actually a cohesive movie-length story. Like before, I'll show you some highlights with an animated version for visual purposes. Be sure to check out the original animator down below.
Hey, all you pirate fans, head on down to the Pirate Cove because the show's about to start. It's our good old pal, Foxy.
With these fan interpretations gained tons of traction, showing that the FNaF fans were interested in the official games pulling it off in some way, how would Scott Cawthon take this? Would he develop a FNaF game that would take the franchise a big step forward by adding voices? I'm sure it would automatically make that title iconic due to it being the first one with voice actors, and in no way be out of nowhere.
You've got mail.
Oh hey, it's FNaF World got an update in 2016 sound. Let's see what this update has to offer that in no way connects to what I was just talking about.
Peter, what are you doing?
Voice acting?
What the fuck?
FNaF World marked the point of voice actors being hired, with the first words ever being said by Chris McCullough as Fredbear, poking fun at how there shouldn't be voice actors. We also have Jesse Adam as Foxy, Amber Lee Connors as Nightmare Chica, JJ and Toy Chica, don't play it, don't play it, don't play it, don't play it, as all these fighters go against Souldozer, who, fun fact, is a character from one of Scott's older games. Souldozer also comes with a voice being played by PJ Haywood, and he does one of my favorite line deliveries when he gets defeated.
Impossible! You haven't seen the last of me! Oh, actually, yes. This is the last you'll see of me.
Wouldn't it be crazy if he did come back? Also within the update, we have Mark Martel as Foxy.exe, along with Debbie Derryberry as Chica's Magic Rainbow, both of which are in their own section where one is a happy good time while the other is a horror show. And yes, I did show these clips in proper order. Overall, FNaF World having a second update adding voice actors out of nowhere, while funny back then, came at the cost of what should have been a big moment to be pretty forgettable due to it, well, it coming out of nowhere in an update to FNaF World. There really isn't else much to be said about FNaF World, so let's move on to an actual FNaF game, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. This one takes an actual step forward for the franchise, as now it's easier to tell the characters apart based on their dialogue said throughout the game, most commonly heard when getting a game over. Meet the Scrap Animatronics. We have Lefty, Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, and Scrap Trap. While I wouldn't say the Scrap animatronics are bursting with personality, this is an early example of the franchise attempting to differentiate the animatronics. I'm going to be solely talking about the main villain of the FNaF series, William Afton, or in this game Scrap Trap, as Lefty doesn't have much, if at all, to talk about because of a whole can of lore that I don't have time to get into right now. Plus, I'll be talking about Molten Freddy and Scrap Baby at a later point. Trust me, you'll eventually see where this goes. Scrap Trap, or Springtrap, is voiced by PJ Haywood. Holy shit, he did come back! He always comes back! I love the way Scrap Trap is in this game, as now we have a way of understanding the way he is, the way he thinks. At this point, he has avoided death. Twice. Once with being spring-locked, and the second being the burning of Fazbear Frights. So stuff like,
What a deceptive calling. I knew it was a lie the moment I heard it, obviously. But it is intriguing nonetheless.
feels fair for his character. Not to mention how this is also the game where we got the iconic,
I always come back.
Again, I think it makes sense for his character to feel like he's on top of it all. What's your excuse? Quick side tangent, I get the FNaF movie wanted to be for the fans, but did you have to include his most famous line within the first movie? Like, can you all imagine the final minigame of FNaF 3 once Purple Guy puts on the suit, he goes,
I always come back.
Isn't that just a little weird for him to say out of nowhere, considering how little we know of the character both at this point of the story and the actual movie itself? Side tangent over. I'm sorry, Matthew Lillard, you know I didn't mean it. As a whole, Scrap Trap as this pure evil, somewhat cocky villain, I feel is exactly what this game needed. Oh wait, right, I'm not allowed to like him because he looks like Jimmy Nutpee. Bad design, burn. Go to whatever afterlife you're meant to go to. Oh hey, lucky us. The series decides to show us where that is in Ultimate Custom Night. Ah, wowie, that's a lot of characters. Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, we can't go over every single one of these. I mean, it's not like their personality contributes to the overall game. So instead, let's do a rapid fire of the animatronics who have been given a voice in this title, plus a characteristic trait free of charge. Withered Bonnie. He tends to make a bunch of face puns due to, you know, I want to say because of his arm? He is voiced by Hans Yunda, who, believe it or not, was in an episode of Nickelodeon's The Thundermans. Not really relevant to anything. Speaking of not being relevant, Toy Freddy, who was voiced by Darren Roebuck, has a decent description from Scott Cawthon made responding to a fan asking why he apparently hates Toy Freddy, with the evidence being his lack of appearance within anything beyond FNaF 2, with Scott stating, "You people don't understand Toy Freddy. He's a very reclusive and private animatronic. He spends his evenings curled up reading a good book. He doesn't like limelight. So please, be respectful, Toy Freddy. He's retired." Now with Scott being Scott, it's safe to assume the last part is him messing around, but reclusive and private does fairly match with how he is in Ultimate Custom Night. Toy Freddy keeps to himself, however when he loses, he becomes pouty and loses his temper quickly. Alright, one more character. Who else could I talk about other than Mr. Hippo? He's voiced by Joe Goodid, who, don't you worry, you'll hear plenty of when you get jump scared. Mr. Hippo was given that grandfather type personality, someone who rambles about their many stories that ultimately are meaningless yet still fun to listen to. Alright, that's all though. The rest of you can, boom. FNaF Special Delivery and Help Wanted. I'll try not to spend too long in these since both titles weren't really trying to step up the personality for the animatronics. At most, Help Wanted had a cut Showtime stage performance you'd be able to view after collecting all 30 hidden coins throughout the game. Even then, it's better to consider them more as voice reveals than anything else. I don't even know if that title was actually even accurate considering it was cut due to Scott being unhappy with Freddy's voice, which,
I'm a big brown bear, but don't be scared, I'm a real fun-loving guy.
You know, it's not bad, but come on, that's not my Freddy. Who is my Freddy, however, is Tim Simmons, who I just learned during the making of the script that he plays the villain in Bendy and the Dark Revival. Does that mean this scene right here is Freddy and Bendy fighting?
No.
Getting back on track, Freddy and Toy Bonnie will be the only ones I talk about for special delivery, as from what I'm aware are the only two who get their debut canon voices. All the other voice actors are returning from previous games. Freddy, in my opinion, was given justice with his threatening voice while having a fun taunting side to him, with lines like,
Bet you weren't expecting me to show up early, were you now? Now would be a good time to hold your breath.
"It's perfect, chef's kiss," something I can't say for Toy Bonnie, played by Cadet Kun. I'll play a couple of voice lines and let you discover the problem for yourself.
Clear the stage, for the star of our show is now here. Did you actually think you could hide from me? It's not my fault I'm so much more famous than you.
It's nothing against the person playing him, more so the fact Toy Bonnie was given this wavy filter for some reason. He stands out like a sore thumb even when put next to the other toy animatronics. Plus, the whole series in general. Doesn't help the fact I'm not really a fan of how egotistical they decided to make him. I can't stand to hear his
Did you actually think you could hide from me?
line one more time. I just want to smash him. I just want to get the animatronic, right? And smash him. Toy Bonnie was an example of just a little too much, an unfortunate foreshadowing of what would come next with the most divisive FNaF game, Security Breach. The game as a whole is a discussion for another time. I'm mainly going to be focusing on what killed the title for many, how the animatronics were given too much personality, to the point where it killed any sort of tension or fear. How true is this though? I mean, some early promotion material for the game presented these guys as a pretty good threat, so let's take a quick look at the animatronics to see if that carried over to the final game. Roxanne Wolf, played by Martha Sevic, right off the bat shares the same problem with Toy Bonnie, being self-centered. She does nothing but talk about how great she is, to the point where it's satisfying to see whenever she fails. But then about halfway through the game, it goes from being satisfying to, well, just kinda sad with her in her room always going, "Wah." Is she meant to be sympathetic with how much she's insecure about herself? Or Montgomery Gator, voiced by Cameron Miller, is representative of the stereotypical rock star. Monty is shown to have some serious anger issues as he destroys anything in sight. Honestly, I could see this working and being scary, until I hear stuff like,
You can hide, but you can't hide.
yeah, I know what they were going for, but come on, that's just too stupid even for him. Glamour Chica, played by Heather Masters, believe it or not, I consider to be the scariest of the three. She isn't generic scary, as she has a deceptive side to her with lines like,
Don't worry, you're safe with me, Gregory.
with the bonus of having a quirk to her of really liking food. Another animatronic within the game that I think works in terms of having a scary factor while being different from the cast is Moon, played by Kellen Goff, who is one side of the daycare attendant animatronic found in Superstar Daycare. Moon is shown to be strict and aggressive as he wants nothing more than to put Gregory to sleep. Both how he acts and how he is during the daycare section where he chases you through the play structure create what I would say is the scariest character in Security Breach. So we have two goods, two mehs, and these guys. Sun, also voiced by Kellen Goff, is the other side of the daycare attendant, acting as the polar opposite of Moon. Sun within Security Breach is nice and energetic, and to be honest, I couldn't 100% care for him since he was just nice. Okay, I'm sorta cheating with this since this is the last FNaF game I'm talking about when it comes to the personality, but within Help Wanted 2, I'll quickly say I love how they kinda changed him up a little to be this friendly, sassy character. This newer take definitely won me over. Anyways, within Security Breach, he's meant to serve as a friendly bait to make the player fall into a false sense of security, so it isn't fair to complain he isn't scary when he eventually turns into Moon. Another friendly character like Sun is Glamrock Freddy, also played by Kellen Goff. As previously mentioned, he is nice, but unlike Sun, he works better because, well, he's actually in the game for a good while. He gets to have moments where he's sad, like when he looks at Bonnie's empty stage, have the feeling of guilt whenever he takes the parts of his friends, and by the end, becomes a protector of Gregory in a sense by doing whatever it takes to protect him, compared to the start where it seemed to be nothing more than helping out another kid in need. Now that I've shown you viewers how the series went from having no voices to a couple voice actors to now voice actors playing characters with a bunch of personality behind them, let me ask you, is it genius or is it dumb? We now have characters that have more depth to them than ever with wants and fears, but in doing so, we've lost the scare factor. A factor to why the original FNaF games worked so well in terms of being a good horror game was the fact how we didn't know all that much. It was a prime example of how less was more. The less we knew about the animatronics, the scarier they were. Now with the franchise doing the complete opposite of that, I'm gonna leave it up to you viewers if it's worth it to have characters that have more than meets the eye, or if we should go back to how the older games did it. If you want to know what I would say, let me remind you of earlier when I avoided talking about Scrap Baby and Molten Freddy. They originated from Sister Location, a game I failed to talk about. Until now. Not only was Sister Location the first real FNaF game to contain voice acting, but was also setting the stage to have the animatronics be different from one another, and I believe this game succeeded in having the best of both worlds. While yes, the game released afterwards, Pizzeria Simulator, did follow this newly laid out path, I would say it executed on the idea slightly worse due to the fact you'll hear the scrap animatronics when you're dead. Unlike Sister Location, where the characters will actually be speaking to you, having their characteristic traits either enhance the horror or the story. Speaking of which, let's go over these characters. Funtime Freddy, voiced by Killing Goff, is a terrifying level of energetic with how happy he'll be trying to hunt the player down. Bon Bon, voiced by Becky Shrimpton, being the puppet on Funtime Freddy's hand, is the opposite. He's calmer and more laid back, yet is a bit of a trickster, with later nights having him run around, with you having to search for him and catch him before. Ballora, played by Michelle Moss, is questionably seductive, and while seemingly non-threatening at first with how slow and calm she can be through her movement, is able to provide one of the scariest jump scares in not only the game, but the whole series. Funtime Foxy, while getting the least out of all the animatronics, is presented as someone who doesn't care for any attention and enjoys being alone. Then there is Circus Baby, played by Heather Masters, who is a sinister clown with a tragic past of being William Afton's daughter before. The way she talks so gently and quietly recaptures the mystery of how little we know of the animatronics, with the way this game shakes it up being how you're always on your toes whether you can trust her or not. Overall, the Sister Location cast is a perfect blend of being scary while also having something unique about them. So if this was me advising Steelwool, I'd say use Sister Location as a base to either use or expand upon when making new characters. I enjoy the idea of the animatronics being more than just staring at you, but not to the point where, we get,
You can hide, but you can't hide.
And hopefully after watching this video, you viewers can come up with your own opinion. Who knows, maybe you think Security Breach did the personalities amazing while Sister Location did the worst. Let me know down below. Anyway, I should probably end this video now before she comes back and says,